Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be ranking all of the ColourPop palettes I tried in 2021. So I did this ranking video last year for 2020 and I thought I would bring it back because I remember it being so fun just to rank all of the palettes and just looking back on the year and seeing everything they released as a whole. So I don't have every single palette they released this year, but I do have 45 palettes to rank, so I think I have the majority of the palettes they came out with. But before we hop into today's video, it's very exciting because today's video is kindly sponsored by ColourPop. I literally can't believe I just said that out loud because I have been reviewing ColourPop constantly. This coming year will be 5 years. 5 years of ColourPop reviews, and this literally, I mean, if you have been with me for a long time, you would know that this literally is the dream partnership because I feel like on my channel, ColourPop was that brand that paved the way for my channel because a lot of you guys found me through my ColourPop reviews and you guys have stuck with me through those reviews. So really this collab would not be possible without you guys for supporting my channel and supporting my videos and just leaving your kind words. And I know a lot of you guys leave comments on ColourPop's posts as well, but really this is all thanks to you guys, and I can't believe that this video is sponsored by ColourPop. I can't believe it. It's so exciting, like literally my dream partnership. So thank you so much to ColourPop for sponsoring today's video. But we have 45 palettes to rank, so with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into the video. So before we hop into the rankings, I do just want to give a little disclaimer. I know I don't have to, but I just like to say it anyway, that this is just my personal ranking and my personal preference and what I like in an eyeshadow palette. So if I rank something very low and it was your favorite palette of the year, that is completely fine. That is really cool. I think that's just the beauty of makeup, how we all have our likes and dislikes, and the way I'm ranking everything is more of what inspired me and what sparked joy or what I use the most. I think just overall across the board with ColourPop palettes, they are all really good, and I will say this in all of my ColourPop reviews, sponsored or not, it really does just come down to personal preference because ColourPop palettes are always so consistent. Maybe there are a few here and there, but for the most part it is very consistent, and it just comes down to your preference, what you have in your collection, and your makeup style and what colors you like to use. So I just want to say that even though I'm ranking something quite low, doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad palette or I don't like it. It is just a ranking video, you know, it's all for fun, so I just wanted to say that first. But with that being said, in the 45th place, I'm gonna have to give it to the 5-pan palette High Society. And the reason why I'm putting this at the bottom is just because I did have one issue with one of the shadows. It was the darkest green in here. I just remember that this dark green was just a little bit patchy on one of my eye. It wasn't patchy on the other, but it was patchy on one, and that patchiness I really don't see so often from ColourPop palettes. Like I said, their palettes are so consistent and their formulation is literally my favorite. That's the reason why I have so many palettes. But this was just a little odd one out of all the palettes they released. This was just a patchy eyeshadow that I experienced on my eyes. However, I do think this little palette is really nice. It comes with a good variation of different greens. So if you want a mixture of greens, then this would be a nice option. I also think it's because I'm really attached to the monochromatic 9-pan palettes that they came out with in 2019 and 2020. I just love those palettes, and Just My Luck is my favorite green palette, so I guess it's hard to top that green palette for me, so I'm gonna have to put this one at 45. Next up we have another 5-pan. This one is Make It Fearless, and this one for me, although the colors are really nice, it just doesn't spark that much joy, this color story. Maybe because it's a 5-pan and it's quite colorful and that kind of intimidates me, but everything worked really well in here. It's just more the color story. It doesn't really speak to me as much, so I'm gonna put it at this spot. And next up I have the Powerpuff Girls palette, and I was so hyped for this collection to drop because I love the Powerpuff Girls. I grew up on that. Cartoon Network was one of my favorite channels, and the reason why I'm putting this low, although I did enjoy this palette, the main reason why I'm putting this one a little bit lower on the list is just because I wish there was a red row, because when I look at Blossom, I know she has pinks in her and she's a bit of orange, but I don't know why when I look at Blossom I think of red. So I would have loved maybe just one red eyeshadow. I know I'm being so nitpicky here, but you know, we gotta rank somehow. Like, we gotta be nitpicky to rank 45 palettes. That's the reason why I'm putting it quite low, but I really enjoyed the look that I did with this because I did one look for Blossom, one look for Bubbles, and then one look for Buttercup, and that was really fun to do. It does hit the spot for the girls, like you get the blue, you get the green, and then you get the pink, but I kind of just wish there was like a red. For the next palette is also another 5 pan. This one is a Statement Piece. It's the sort of orange coral one, and the reason why I'm also putting this one low, although it's a really nice palette, I think just the variation of the colors, like the mattes, they kind of clash a little bit. There's not too much of a difference between the shadows and it's going to look very similar. That might not be a con to you, but I guess, you know, if I'm ranking it, that would be a con for me, because if you look into the Coastal Coral palette, their 9 pan coral palette, I think that one just has a bit more variation when it comes to the mattes, and this one kind of just clashes together. But again, it's still a really great coral palette, and if you're looking for like a 5 pan coral monochromatic palette, it's very, very pretty. I love these tones as well. And then moving on, we have the Tinkerbell Sprinkle a Little Magic palette. This one is also really nice as well. Like, I didn't have any issues with that. This dark green in the corner here is really nice, but again, it's like my attachment to the monochromatic 9 pan OG palettes, like Just My Luck. You can't beat Just My Luck for me. I feel like that palette is just like a perfect green palette, and this one is another green 9 pan palette, but I just prefer Just My Luck a little bit more. I would say that these two sort of neutral shades here, they kind of look the same on the eyes as well, but you do get a good variation of different metallics that have different green undertones, which is really nice. Like, this is a really good palette. Like, I think this green, this matte green here, is quite unique. And the next palette, we have our first quad. So I'm gonna put the Hello Kitty Pineapple Cake quad at this spot. It is the yellow one, and my reasoning is the same for like the coral palette. It's just when you get like a monochromatic yellow palette, you can't get like such a good variation with yellow, because I don't know, it just all kind of looks the same. Even with the Honey palette, the yellow monochromatic 9 pan, it's sort of the same. Like, you can't get too much variation out of it, so for that reason I'm gonna rank it here. But doesn't yellow just make you so happy? I know I'm in all black right now, but like, this yellow just makes me so happy, and it is a really beautiful palette. I really like this Hello Kitty collection. You'll see the other palettes ranked a little higher. It's just, you know, if I had to like choose, this one doesn't give me like so much variation, but it's still a very happy little palette. Okay, so the next couple palettes, I'm just going to sort of speed through them because they are all the 5 pans, and the 5 pans are nice. I feel like I just didn't get to use them as much this year. And again, if I'm going to use like a blue palette like this one, I'm probably gonna pick up Blue Moon or High Tide, which is ranked a little higher. But if you like a smaller palette and you want less options, these are a really great option. But for my personal preference, I just don't use these mini palettes as much. Anyway, I'm just gonna sort of rank them from my like least favorite to my favorite. So we're just gonna run through them. We first have Cashmere Forever, which is the purple. You get a good mix of purples in here with different undertones. It's really pretty, but again, it's my pleasure. I just really love the 9 pans, okay? Next up, we have Lyric, which is more of like a neutral, warm tone kind of palette. It has some crisp glitter in the middle there. It's a really nice like staple palette if you want something miniature. And then we have a Ballad. This one is a nice cool tone. It's like a smaller version of Stone Cold Fog. It's a really nice mini palette to have if you just want to like dabble into some cool tones. And then we have Too Hot, which is the pink. I really do like this one as well, but I'm just going to rank it here because I like some others more. And then we have Amore. I remember the look that I did with this. I really liked it. So that is that. And then we have the blue one, Rumor Has It. Rumor Has It is really nice. I don't know why. I really like blue eyeshadow, but I don't wear blue eyeshadow a lot. I'm not scared to play with color. I mean, in my day-to-day life, I'm probably gonna do a makeup look like this, very neutral. I love blues. I think they're just so pretty. And look at this teal here. It's so, so pretty. But I just don't wear blues a lot. I probably need to do that more in 2022. But that is Rumor Has It. And the next one is Cherish. Also, remember the look that I did with this, I also really liked. I have very fond memories of these 5 pans because the first 5 pans that they released, the looks that I did, I had like matching berets with the looks, and that was just my favorite thing ever because I love wearing berets. The one that I like the most and probably the one I use the most is Crush because it is just like a warm tone dream, so obviously this would have to be my favorite one. But while we are on 5 pans, they did come out with these like smaller 5 pans in the Bambi collection, and I did enjoy these as well. Again, just preferred some other palettes over these, but these were really nice. I think they did a good job with this and the variation. I think the colors suit the characters really well. So I'm gonna rank Flower here. This one is a nice purple. You get good depth in here with that darker matte sort of black here. And then we have Bambi, which is the warm tone one. This does remind me a lot of Little Ray or Sunshine, a monochromatic 9-pan palette, but this one's really nice as well. But my favorite one would have to be Thumper. I think this little color story here, this like cool tone mauvey color story is quite nice with that pop of green. I feel like I don't know how to describe it, but I like this one a lot. I like this color story. I did a video where I had to pick one palette in each pan size, and for the 5 pans I picked the Thumper, so of course it's ranked a little higher than all of the other 5 pans. But then speaking of the 5 pans, we're now gonna move into the quads, the 4 pans. I have some here, I have some that's ranked a little higher, but these ones are ranked a little lower just because I don't really use these ones as much as I do the others. So the first quad is Citrus Fizz. These are also really fragile as well. I noticed that they are very like buttery in the quad, but this one is a nice like neutral. A lot of them have 2 mattes and 2 shimmers, and then this one here is called Triple Scoop. It came with their ice cream collection. It's a nice warm orange quad here. And then we have this one called Sorbet. I like the look that I created with this. I can't remember it. I really like the metallics in here. I love these like rose gold tones. Maybe I need to bring this one out a little bit more. I'm gonna put this on my vanity because those rose gold shadows are very, very pretty. And then lastly, we have Sunday Funday. I love this color story. I love yellow with pink. It's so summery and so fun. I love this. So that would rank at the top of those quads. But moving right along, we do have some more quads, but these are from the Hello Kitty collection. So I mentioned the yellow one earlier, and then the other 3 are here. So I'm going to rank Cherry Sweet, which is the pink. It's a nice little pinky palette. I feel like you could use the peachy side like this for more like a neutral look, and then more of a vibrant look on the other side. And then we have Teeny Keeny, which is the orange. I mean, I love a good orange, and I think you can create a really well-rounded look with this, with the transition, then the deep tone, and then the 2 metallics. It's a good variation in here. But my favorite one, surprise, surprise, is the Cocoa Cutie, which is the blue. Again, I just love blue eyeshadow, but I don't wear blue eyeshadow. The top 2 blues is more teal, and then the bottom is more like a true blue, so you get a variation there. And I think it's a nice little pop of color. If you're not someone that plays with a lot of color, but you just want a little pop in your collection, these are so cute. I mean, Hello Kitty is so cute. I used to be obsessed with her when I was young. But anyway, let's move right along. The next palette I have is Your Golden, which was one of their mega palettes they released this year. And I really do love Your Golden. It's actually the palette I'm wearing on my eyes right now, which is a very sort of neutral, cooler tone look. And when you look at this palette, you might think, can you really get something cool tone? But you can. So I love this color story. I think it's really pleasing to the eyes with like the coral and then the blue and then the gold. It's very complementary, and I like the variation here. You get deep tones, you get lighter tones, transition. It's a good mega palette. Like, I just don't use this enough, really. It is ranked a little lower. I probably could have ranked it higher, but I just didn't use this one as much. I think there is some shades that can cross over a little bit, but it's still a really good palette. And next up, I have the Fine Feathered palette. I also really like this one as well. It's like a monochromatic 9-pan berry palette. So if you want some fuchsia berry tones, this would be so good. The ratio to mattes and shimmers is literally perfection for me. I love when a palette has more mattes than shimmers. So you get 2 shimmers in here, which to some people might not be a lot, but I really feel like you can do so much when you have a lot more mattes than shimmers. In my personal opinion, this is a really nice one. It was an Ulta exclusive, so hopefully it's still available. I mean, some of these palettes might be discontinued because some of them did release early in the year, but I'm sure for the most part a lot of them are still available. And next up, we have a really recent palette that I actually just tried this month. So this is the Rudolph palette, and I really enjoyed this palette as well. I thought it was a really nice holiday palette because you have the red, the green, but you also have some pinky neutrals here. There's a lot you can do with this palette as well. I really enjoyed it. I really like the looks that I got out of it as well, so I'm gonna put it at this place. I don't even know what number I'm at anymore, so I'm just like Oh, we're gonna place it here. So the next palette is their other mega palette they released this year, which is It's a Mood. And It's a Mood, it's seriously such a good staple palette. I feel like this is really good for fall time because a lot of the comparisons I've done, I will use It's a Mood for a lot of those comparisons because it covers a lot of colors. Like on this side we have the earthy tone, then you have the burgundies, and then you have the orange, the purples, the blues, and then the greens. Like it covers such a wide range. So when I do my comparisons, it covers a lot of palettes actually. So I think if you don't want to get too many palettes, you want a palette that covers a lot of color stories, this would be a really good option. You get a good variation. There are some pressed glitters in here, but I don't mind that. It's just a really good like fall time palette, and it's absolutely beautiful. It is a really stunning palette. Another recent palette I just reviewed is the Mandalorian palette. So this one is a cooler tone palette, and I'm not someone that really likes cooler tones, but the reason why I'm ranking this one a little bit higher is because this palette made me step out of my comfort zone because it has this mustard in here, and I would never think to mix mustard, which is like so warm, with gray, which is literally so cool tone, and mix those together and get a really beautiful look. Although it's not something I would really pick up so much because it's very, very cool, but it made me do a color story I never done before. And guys, like, I have 45 palettes here and I have reviewed every single palette and done a look. Some of the palettes I've done 3 looks. So you can imagine in this year alone how many color stories, color combos, and looks I have done. And I have been reviewing ColourPop for almost 5 years. So imagine all of the looks I have done. And I've never done a mustard and grey. And this palette allowed me to do that. You know what I mean? Like I would never think to mix those two. So that's why I'm ranking this one a little bit higher. But yeah, I really did enjoy it. I do love a cool tone eyeshadow here and there. I mean, today I went sort of cool tone, you know? So I do crave it sometimes, but it was a palette that made me step out of my comfort zone, so I'm going to rank it a little bit higher. And then the next palette, I think this was the first palette I reviewed in 2021, which was the Wine and Only. You get a good variation of mattes from shimmers. Everything works really, really well. It is just a sexy red palette, you know, and I love my reds, so I'm gonna rank that here. And the next palette is another collab palette. This one was with Lizzie McGuire. So this is a What Dreams Are Made Of palette. It is super bright, it is super fun, and I just loved this color story, and I also love the looks that I created with it. I also remember I bought like these $2 extension hair streaks to wear in my hair, which looks so fake. I bought these little beaded bracelets. It's just a really fun palette that takes you back to your childhood. I watched it, but I probably didn't understand anything they were saying. Like I don't even remember what Lizzie McGuire did, or like Gordon or Miranda. Like I know the characters, but I'm like, what even happened in that show? Like I don't remember, but this color story was just so fun with the lime green and the purples and the pinks and the corals. Like it's just such a fun palette. I had to rank it here. Had a lot of fun with this palette this year as well. Moving right along, we have another palette that was literally my last palette I tried from ColourPop this year, so it's a really new one and it's ranked pretty high. This is the Warring Hearts palette. It is their 10 pan palette, which is not a format we've seen a lot from them, but I really do think this is just a really nice staple palette. You get your transitions, your medium, your dark, you get the black. It really is just like a nice everyday staple palette for neutrals, for warm tone. The metallics in here, you get a good variation as well. So for that, I feel like it would just be a really great staple palette. Is it anything so special and unique and different? Definitely not. I think a lot of us would have these shadows. But with that being said, we all need a staple palette in our collection, and I definitely can see this palette being a staple for a lot of people. So I'm gonna rank it here. I really enjoyed it. You know, I love my warm tones, so gonna rank it there. And the next palette we have is the Boudoir Noir palette, and this one was actually quite a surprise. When I first saw it, I wasn't really sure how much I was gonna like it, but when I started creating my looks with it, I really fell in love with it. It is, I don't know how to describe it. It's very warm, but it has this sort of like camo vibe to it, you know, with that army green there. It's like dirty. It's like dirty money, but in the best way possible. It's like dirty money in a palette, right? But in the best way possible. There's a good amount of matte and shimmers. There is one pressed glitter, which I do like. I have really grown to like pressed glitters this year, so this one will have to be at this place. I really enjoyed that. And then next up we have a little quad here. So this one is the Extra Toppings quad, which also came in their ice cream collection. I like how you get the pink and then also the brown to deepen out the edges, and then you get 2 beautiful pink shadows that have a different undertone to them. So it's really pretty. I love pink eyeshadow. Definitely need to bring that one out a little bit more as well. But next up we have the Plush Like Me palette. This one also was another surprise. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much as I did until I created my looks. It is very sexy as well, sort of like wine and only. When I think of burgundy, I don't know why I'm like, ooh, such a sexy little color. But this one is really pretty. Like the ratio, I know I talk about ratios, but ratio is just so important, okay? We need good ratios, and ColourPop does a good job with ratios, okay? They always add a lot of mattes. Yeah, this one was just really good. It's a nice staple palette as well. I feel like if you want the staple neutrals and warm tones but you want a bit of like depth, this would be a really good palette to have. But okay, I think we are entering the top 10 palettes now. So these are the top 10 palettes I tried from ColourPop in 2021, which thinking, did I do a good job with my ranking? Because I'm like thinking this is top 10. Let's just go with it. Let's just go with my initial gut feeling. I didn't really alter anything. So to start off the list, we have all of the Animal Crossing quads. I didn't think I was gonna rank these so high until I brought them out again, and I really looked at them and I'm like, no, this is a really good collection. Like, okay, first off, love Animal Crossing. I played it like literally all of 2020. I loved it, and I think the collection was really well done. Like, it was probably one of ColourPop's best collabs because all the attention detail that they had, it was really top notch. But these palettes, like, I think they're really nice. Okay, like this is a really ideal quad for me personally. So I first have a What the Hoot, because you get the transition, you get the deeper tone, then you get a metallic, and then you get a pressed glitter. That is literally my eye look in a nutshell. That's what I literally did today. I did a transition, a deeper outer corner, a metallic shadow at the inner third, and the glitter on my lower lash line. So when I saw these palettes, I'm like, wow, this is literally me. It's literally me in a quad. Maybe at the time, because I really grew to love glitter more and more as the year went on. So these released, I think it was like February or like January. So earlier on the year for sure. Maybe I didn't really appreciate it. Like maybe I didn't really see the potential, like wow, this is really you in a palette. So I'm just gonna rank these really high because I think they're really good, and I think you get a good variation of the colors. All the color stories match the characters so well. We got the cuteness, we got the packaging, we got the concept, but we have the shadows that match my makeup style so well. Like seriously, so well. So next up we have 5 Star Island again. We got the transition, the more medium tone, the glitter, and then the all over metallic. And then we have Label of the Ball. Again, transition, medium, metallic, and glitter. And this glitter, this purple glitter, is so pretty. I wish I had more time and more eyes to play with these palettes because it's just so pretty. And then of course I had to rank the blue, the tealy one. On top we have a Nook Ink, we have our Maya. So this is the more teal, and I love teals. Like this is like in that blue-green family, but again, transition, deeper tone, metallic, and the glitter. The glitter is so pretty. I love glitter. Oh my gosh, I love glitter. And oh, this glitter is really beautiful. This mint glitter, now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, okay, I did a good job with rankings, in my opinion. I personally don't think other people would rank the Animal Crossing one so high, but I think if you have a similar makeup style to me, like transition, medium, metallic, and then glitter, they did that. They did that with the Animal Crossing one. And now on to number 6, we have the So Very Lovely palette. Again, it was another palette that I wasn't sure I was gonna love so much, but when I used it, I think I just love that pop of lilac with like the corals and the mixture of the other shadows. Like that pop of lilac, I feel like it just brought something different to this palette. You know what I mean? Like if we didn't have that lilac, I feel like it wouldn't really scream out to me, but I don't know, I really loved it. And this lilac color in the inner corner with the coral and peach, I don't think I did that color combo either. Like coral and lilac, it's so pretty. You guys need to try it. So I really enjoyed this. When I got this palette, I remember like I just wanted to use it more and more because I really love the look that I got out of it. It's a really great daily palette. You can definitely vamp it up as well, but you can also make it very sweet and spring. It's just a really nice palette, so I really enjoyed this one. And then number 5 was actually a really recent palette as well, but it is the Lucky Penny palette. And just like Roaring Hearts, I feel like this is a really great staple palette. Like if you really want some warm, rich tones, this is a really great staple palette. I feel like if you guys are familiar with Nude Mood, it's like a really great warm toned daily palette. It's one of my favorite palettes I released last year. Pretty sure I ranked that palette like number 1 or number 2 last year, but I feel like this is like the step up version. This is the deeper version of Nude Mood. It's like the fall version of Nude Mood, and it's just really like toasty and delicious and cozy. So although I don't think the shades are very unique or anything, I think it's a palette that you'll get a lot of use out of, and I have gotten a lot of use out of. So with that being said, we're gonna put this at number 5. And then coming in at number 4, we have High Tide. So this is their monochromatic teal palette, and I remember seeing some comments that people were saying that this wasn't teal enough, but personally for me, this is so teal. If you compare this to Blue Moon, it's so different. The undertone is very different. The looks you get out of it is so different. But again, I really like blues, but I just don't wear blue enough. And I think this kind of blue, the more like teal side rather than the true blue, I feel like is a little bit more flattering. It definitely gives me mermaid vibes. And I remember when I reviewed this palette, I had pitch black hair. I just like dyed my hair recently, and I just love the pitch black hair with the teals. It was just mermaid vibes. I loved it. Every time I wear teals, I always want to stick on pearls. It's just a match made in heaven, honestly. And the colors in here are just so pretty. I love this teal. I don't know why I like blue. Blue's only my favorite color, guys. Like blue's not my favorite color. Like, it's not even close to being my favorite color. Like, it really is not. Never in my life has blue ever been a favorite color of mine. Like, it's always been pink. I liked purple at one point. Now my favorite colors are like beige and green and brown. Like, blue has never had any significance in my life. But for some reason, it's just so pretty. Like, it's such a pretty eyeshadow to look at. But now onto the top 3. Okay, maybe you guys might be like, that's a little weird, and you know, yeah, it kind of is a little weird as well, because when I look back to my 2020 rankings, I feel like in a way it made more like Judy sense. Like, oh, I can definitely see those palettes on Judy, but maybe these palettes you'll be like, really? But I had my reasons. Okay, let's move into the number 3 spot, and I think this palette is discontinued now. It is the Rainbow Sprinkles Little Quad. A lot of people might disagree with this because it is a full-on pressed glitter. All 4 shades are pressed glitters, and I know on the Western side people do not like pressed glitters, but on the Asian side of the makeup world, we love it. Okay, we love it here. So this I love, although I didn't use it as much because again, I only got into pressed glitter really recently. And this, I feel like, is such a nice quad to have on hand. This is definitely going to be moving into my top drawer. I don't know why I didn't move it earlier. You get the white, the gold, the pink, and the purple. Like, it is just so pretty. Again, like, guys, I just love the glitters. And if you want to get into pressed glitters, but you don't want to like get a variation, get this little quad. I mean, I think it is discontinued, but if it's not and I'm mistaken, get this quad because you get 4 different glitters, and I feel like you wouldn't need any more glitters. And I think it was such a nice idea that ColourPop did release it like this. For those people that don't like pressed glitter, they could just skip this palette as a whole, but for those of us that love pressed glitters, we have like 4 options, and it's just perfect. I love this. I love the idea of this, but I know that is not going to be a popular opinion, but I think it's really pretty and I really like it. And then on to my number 2 spot. Okay, so this number 2 spot is a palette I actually use the most out of everything. I feel like this year I didn't really find my tried and true palette. Like, for example, last year ColourPop released Nude Mood, Blush Crush, That's Taupe, Little Ray of Sunshine, Coastal Coral, a lot of staple palettes that I love. But I feel like this year a lot of the color stories were, for me at least, were quite experimental and just a little bit more fun rather than being more like staples, if that makes sense. So I guess the ranking, it feels a little bit different from last year, but this palette specifically is definitely a palette that I have used the most, but it's sort of like really basic, so I'm gonna rank it at number 2 instead of number 1. And that palette is the Cream Soda Quad. So I have mentioned this actually quite a lot in a lot of my videos, but I mainly use them to matte as an all over lid shade. So whenever I'm doing like a no makeup look, or I just don't want too much eyeshadow on my eyes, but I want a little something, I will always go into this. And you can definitely see like my pan is like dipped in because I use this so much. I don't use the metallics as much, so that's why I didn't want to rank it at number 1. Like, ranking it at number 1 for 2 eyeshadows, it's like, okay, Judy, but it's still at number 2 because truly it is the palette out of everything I have used the most. It's the palette that I keep in my top drawer. So for that, it has to be at number 2 for me. Like, I know it might sound silly, but it is what it is. It is what I use the most. And then for the grand finale, for number 1, I feel like when I got this palette, this is the palette I'm going to rank number 1 for the year, because when I got this palette, I felt so inspired. I felt so different from everything else ColourPop released, and I just kind of knew, like, okay, this is probably going to be my number 1 palette of the year, like, no doubt about it. And that palette is the Lush Life palette, and it might come to a surprise because you guys know, like, I do play with color on my channel, but in my personal life I don't really play with too much color. And when you look at this palette, it's like literally a tropical dream. But that's the thing, like, I'm ranking these palettes like for different reasons. Some of them is because I used a lot, for example cream soda, but then some of them is just like what sparks joy. Like, I don't even wear blues, but I ranked High Tide so high. This is another example. Like, I don't wear these colors so often, although I could, because it has this row of corals that you can play with. I don't know if it was like the greens and the blues and the corals mixed together. I really love that combo, like coral, green or blue. It really goes well together. It's very complementary. So this palette, like, when I played with it, like, I had a lot of fun with this palette. I loved all the looks that I got out of it, and it was just, I don't know, something about it. I just knew when I got it this was going to rank number 1. But with that being said, guys, that is the number 1 palette. That is 45 palettes ranked. These are all the palettes I tried in 2021 from ColourPop. I would love to know, what was your number 1 palette from ColourPop this year? Did we have something kind of similar? Like, is my top 10 kind of similar to yours? Let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. But with that being said, I would like to thank ColourPop once again for sponsoring this video. Literally cannot believe that this is even happening, that my rankings video is sponsored by ColourPop. Like, it's a dream come true, and it is such a pleasure. I absolutely love and adore ColourPop as a brand, as you guys can tell, as you can see on my channel. You can see my ColourPop playlist is literally so long, but it's such a dream come true. And again, a big thank you to you guys for supporting me and my channel and my ColourPop reviews. This literally cannot be possible without you. So thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I love you so much, and I'll go ahead and see you guys in my next video in the new year. Bye!